In a world that never stops talking, silence has become rare and power misunderstood. We live in an age where everyone feels the need to explain, defend, and prove their worth to people who rarely listen. We over-explain our feelings. We chase validation like it's oxygen. We drown in the noise of trying to be understood. But the Stoic sees things differently. To them, silence is not emptiness. It's energy. It's the discipline of knowing that not every opinion deserves your response, and not every misunderstanding requires your defense. Because weakness hides behind over-explanation. The more you try to make someone see your side, the more control you give away. True strength is quiet. It doesn't beg to be seen. It reveals itself through composure. The world will tell you that silence is avoidance, that if you don't react, you don't care. But that's not the truth. Real control is not in what you say, it's in what you choose not to. Epictetus once taught that the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. That includes opinions, explanations, and validation. You don't owe anyone an essay for your peace. You don't have to break your stillness just to prove that you're calm. Silence doesn't mean weakness, it means wisdom. It's the space where clarity forms and power returns. Every time you explain yourself to those who never wanted to understand, you dilute your energy. Every time you stay quiet, you reclaim it. Because silence is not the absence of thought, it's the presence of control. And control, in a chaotic world, is the rarest form of strength. Why silence matters. When things fall apart, most people rush to fix the cracks with words. They argue, justify, apologize, overcompensate, all in the hope of being understood. But the Stoic knows what's real doesn't need to be defended. Stillness speaks louder than the loudest reaction. Silence is self-respect. It's the boundary between chaos and clarity. It's not about ignoring others, it's about honoring yourself. When you stop reacting, you stop giving away your peace. When you stop explaining, you take back your dignity. Because silence is not passive, it's precise. It's the calm before transformation. And in that quiet space, something shifts. You begin to see who's truly there for you, who's pretending, and who disappears when you stop giving. So stay with me, because in this journey, we'll uncover 6 deep truths about silence that will reshape how you see strength, self-respect, and power itself. Point 1. Silence makes them feel your absence. Sometimes, silence is the loudest sound you can make. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop chasing, people start to feel something they never expected. Your absence. Because attention is easy to get when you speak, but power is earned when you go quiet. The world notices when noise stops. Most people panic when they feel misunderstood. They rush to fix it with messages, calls, and endless explanations. But every time you react, you give away a piece of your peace. You tell the world, my emotions are up for negotiation. That's not strength, that's surrender. The Stoic understands that silence isn't weakness. It's a statement of self-worth. Your quietness becomes a mirror. It reflects everything they did, without you needing to say a single word. It says, I saw what you did, but I value myself too much to explain it. And that's when they start to notice the shift. They replay moments in their head. They question your calm. They feel your distance more than they ever heard your words. Albert Hubbard once said, he who does not understand your silence will not understand your words. And that's the truth most people miss. If they couldn't respect your presence, they'll surely respect your absence. So stop trying to prove your worth through noise. Let your silence speak. Because silence doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it reminds. And it doesn't punish, it protects. True strength is not in the reaction, it's in the restraint. Point 2. When you stay silent, you hear the truth louder. When the noise fades, the truth finally speaks. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the space where your inner voice becomes clear. In a world that glorifies constant reaction, silence is rebellion. It's you stepping away from chaos to listen, not to others, but to yourself. When you stop running to others for validation, something powerful happens. The fog begins to lift. You start to see things as they are, not as your emotions painted them. You begin to realize quiet truths that noise always buried. I wasn't angry they left. I was angry I stayed too long. I don't need closure, I need peace. These are the realizations that only arrive when you stop talking and start listening. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment of it. Silence helps you see that judgment clearly. It's not the world that hurts us, it's how we interpret it. Your emotions scream, explain yourself, prove your worth, be heard, but your values whisper, hold your dignity, protect your peace, let go. Only in silence can you hear that whisper. That's where wisdom lives, not in the noise of reaction, but in the stillness of reflection. The modern world celebrates loudness, say more, post more, react faster, but the Stoic knows better. The calm mind always sees further than the chaotic one. When you stay silent, you stop being lost in the storm and start becoming the eye of it. So next time you feel the urge to respond, pause. Because silence doesn't mean you don't care, it means you finally learned what truly deserves your energy. Point 3. Begging for closure is self-betrayal. There's a certain kind of pain that words can't describe. The pain of being left without an explanation. You replay the moments, the conversations, the things you wish you'd said differently. You wait for a message, a call, some sign that they care enough to close the door properly. But deep down you already know. If they truly respected you, you wouldn't have to beg for closure. The need for closure is human. It's that burning desire to understand what went wrong, to make sense of the ending. But chasing it from someone who's already chosen silence only deepens the wound. Because every time you reach out again, hoping they'll fill the empty space they left, you give them control over your healing. That's the trap. Hurt turns into hope, hope turns into disappointment, and disappointment turns into self-blame. It's a cycle that slowly erodes your self-respect. You tell yourself, if I can just explain my side, if they just hear me out, but what you're really doing is abandoning yourself in the name of understanding someone who never tried to understand you. The Stoics had a simple truth for this. Don't explain your philosophy, live it. You don't need to preach peace, you practice it. You don't need to beg for respect, you embody it. And you don't need to chase closure, you create it through acceptance. When you stop explaining, you stop negotiating your worth. Because every explanation you give to someone who doesn't care becomes another thread tying you to their silence. And silence, when chosen by them, is already an answer. It says everything you're trying so hard to make them say. The hard part isn't letting them go. It's letting go of the version of yourself that thought you needed their explanation to move on. But once you do, you'll feel something you didn't expect. Peace, not the kind that comes after a perfect goodbye, but the quiet kind that comes when you finally stop fighting reality. Imagine this: instead of waiting for a final talk that will never come, you choose to walk away with dignity. No last text, no long paragraph, no demand for closure, just stillness. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Because in that silence, you're no longer reacting to their actions, you're responding to your own truth. Closure doesn't arrive in someone else's apology, it arrives in your acceptance. It's the moment you say to yourself, they've already said enough through their absence. I don't need more words to understand what silence has already taught me. So when your heart aches to reach out, pause, breathe. Remember, you don't need to be understood to heal. You need to be at peace with what is. That's real closure. That's real strength. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's evolution. It's the sound of self-respect being rebuilt, one quiet moment at a time. Point 4. Silence exposes what words try to hide. Silence has a way of revealing what words are meant to conceal. You see, anyone can sound sincere, anyone can say the right things, apologies, explanations, even promises that sparkle with conviction. But words are easy. They're rehearsed, they're strategic, they're often spoken to protect ego, not truth. Actions, though, actions don't perform, they reveal. When you go silent, you strip away the stage. The performance ends. Suddenly, people can't hide behind speeches or excuses anymore. They're left with only their behavior. And that's when truth starts to unfold, quietly but clearly. Ralph Waldo Emerson once wrote, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." The Stoics would have agreed completely because they never judged a person by their words, only by their patterns. When you stop explaining yourself, when you withdraw your energy, people's true colors rise to the surface. Watch closely. The one who genuinely valued you will reach out. The one who only used you will disappear. The one who tried to manipulate your emotions will grow restless, not because you did something wrong, but because your silence removes their control. That's the beauty of silence. It doesn't expose others with noise, it exposes them with stillness. You don't have to confront them, you don't have to test them, you don't even have to speak. Just stop talking and observe what happens next. Some will check in, wondering why you've pulled away. Others will vanish, revealing they were only there when you gave. A few might even get angry, frustrated that you're no longer reacting to their game. That reaction tells you everything you need to know. You didn't lose them. You simply stopped feeding their illusion. People can argue with your words, twist them, deny them, but they can't argue with your silence. They can ignore your opinion, but they can't ignore your absence. Silence forces reality into focus. It's like turning off the noise in a crowded room. Suddenly you can see who's really standing with you. And here's the part most people misunderstand. Being silent isn't cold, it's clear. It's not emotional detachment, it's emotional discipline. Stoicism isn't about being numb, it's about seeing reality without distortion. When you stop reacting, you begin observing. You stop needing explanations because their actions already gave you the truth. Trust patterns, not promises. Promises live in the mouth, patterns live in time. Promises can be sweet, patterns are honest. The Stoic doesn't chase words, he reads behavior. He understands that silence often says more than 1,000 justifications ever could. So the next time someone's words sound convincing, step back, don't rush to believe, and don't rush to respond. Be still, because silence is a mirror, and in that mirror, you'll see who's genuine, who's pretending, and who was never really there at all. That's not coldness, that's wisdom. That's not pride, that's peace. And in that stillness, you'll finally stop hearing lies and start seeing truth. Point 5. Not explaining yourself is the highest form of confidence. There's a quiet power in walking away without defending yourself. In a world obsessed with proving, convincing, and explaining, silence becomes the rarest form of strength. Most people mistake noise for confidence. They think that being heard means being understood. But true confidence doesn't beg to be understood. It stands firm, even in misunderstanding. When someone misjudges you, your instinct might whisper, "Set the record straight." You want to correct the story, defend your name, show them your heart. But explaining yourself to those who have already made up their minds isn't clarity, it's fear. It's the fear of being seen wrongly. It's the fear of being unseen altogether. And when fear drives your words, your peace becomes dependent on someone else's perception. The Stoics warned us about this trap centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste what remains of your life speculating about your neighbors." He meant, don't spend your sacred time trying to manage how others see you. Their opinion is outside your control, and the more you chase their understanding, the less control you have over your own soul. Real confidence is silent because it's self-assured. It doesn't need applause to feel valid. It doesn't shrink when misunderstood. It simply knows. It knows that intentions matter more than interpretation. It knows that truth doesn't need marketing. And it knows that dignity isn't proven in arguments. It's proven in restraint. When you stop explaining yourself, you send a powerful message. I am at peace with who I am, even if you're not. That energy confuses people who rely on control. Some will call you distant. Others will say you've changed. But what really happened is this: you stopped performing for their comfort. Detachment isn't coldness. It's alignment. It's understanding that the ones who truly see you will never require long explanations. They'll feel your intention in your presence. And those who don't, those who twist your silence into arrogance, were never listening anyway. This kind of confidence doesn't shout. It glows. It doesn't demand recognition. It commands respect. It doesn't chase understanding. It trusts that truth always surfaces in time. And here's the quiet paradox. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the right people begin to understand you more deeply than words ever could. You'll notice something else too. Silence makes manipulators vanish. They feed on reaction, not reflection. When you go quiet, they lose power because they can't twist what isn't said. And the people who are meant to stay, they lean in. They respect your boundaries. They understand your calm. You no longer fight to prove your worth. You embody it. You no longer seek validation. You radiate it. The less you explain, the more magnetic you become. So the next time someone questions your choices, your peace, or your silence, smile inwardly. Remember that confidence doesn't come from being understood. It comes from understanding yourself. Your calm isn't weakness, it's mastery. Your silence isn't avoidance, it's evolution. And your lack of explanation, that's the sound of someone who's finally free. Point 6. Your detachment in silence teaches the lesson. There's a point where silence becomes more than peace. It becomes a teacher. You no longer speak to be heard. You no longer argue to be right. You simply step back. And that quiet step back, that calm detachment, says everything words could never express. In a world addicted to attention and reaction, your stillness feels like thunder. People expect you to explain, to chase, to fight for closure. But when you don't, when you simply withdraw, it creates a silence they can't control. That silence forces them to confront something far louder, themselves. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The Stoics understood that most of our pain isn't from what happens, it's from how we keep replaying it, how we keep trying to fix it in our minds. Detachment breaks that cycle. It says, I no longer need to win the story, I just need to protect my peace. Quiet detachment is dignity in its purest form. It's not the absence of care, it's the presence of self-respect. You're not punishing anyone by walking away. You're simply choosing not to participate in what costs your soul. You don't need to shout your worth, you don't need to prove your innocence, and you certainly don't need to explain your silence. When you stop engaging, something powerful happens. The roles reverse. Those who once ignored your presence now feel your absence. The ones who took your energy for granted now face the emptiness they created. And it's not revenge, it's revelation. They learn more from your distance than they ever did from your words. Silence is the mirror where people finally see their reflection. When you don't react, they're left alone with their actions. No distraction, no justification. That's when realization hits. You didn't lose them, they lost access to your peace. And here's what makes detachment divine. It teaches without trying. You don't scold, you don't correct, you don't fight. You just exist in calm truth. The Stoic doesn't chase resolution, he embodies it. He knows that peace never asks for permission to exist. It simply is. To some, your silence will look like pride. To others, it will look like indifference. But to you, it's freedom. You've reached a place where your emotions serve you, not enslave you, where you no longer bleed for those who cut you, and you no longer beg for understanding from those committed to misunderstanding you. Distance becomes your boundary, detachment becomes your healing, and silence becomes your loudest statement. Remember this, people don't learn through confrontation. They learn through consequence. They don't grow through debate, they grow through distance. Your absence is often the lesson they need, and your peace is the proof that you've already learned yours. You've outgrown chaos, you've chosen clarity, you've stopped explaining and started evolving. And that quiet, graceful detachment, that's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of your peace. Closing message, the power of silent strength. There comes a moment when you stop needing to be understood and start choosing to be at peace. That's the real turning point. When silence is no longer a reaction, but a decision to protect your energy, your dignity, and your calm. Silence isn't weakness, it's control. It's standing tall in a world that demands noise and choosing not to add to it. It's knowing that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone who couldn't see it when it was freely given. Every time you stay calm instead of reacting, you're rebuilding your strength. Every time you choose silence over argument, you're reminding yourself, my peace is worth more than being right. Each quiet step away from chaos becomes a brick in the foundation of your unshakable self. When your emotions rise and the urge to respond burns, remember, silence is not surrender, it's mastery. It's how the Stoic wins the invisible battles, not by fighting harder, but by refusing to be pulled into the storm. Because in silence you return to yourself. You stop bleeding energy into what doesn't serve you. You stop explaining to those committed to misunderstanding you. And in that stillness, something profound happens. Your peace starts to speak for you. You realize that silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. It holds dignity, truth, and power. It's the language of self-respect. So when words fail, when chaos calls, when emotions rise, pause, breathe, step back into your calm, and remind yourself of this truth. My silence is my last word, and my most powerful one.